Good morning. I'm John Jones, Chairman of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. This meeting is being conducted pursuant to the notice provisions of the Oklahoma Open Meeting Act, with all participating authority members attending in person. While this meeting is open and public, there will be no public comments, as is OTA's longstanding historical practice. In addition to being open to the public for in-person observation, the meeting is being live-streamed and recorded for remote viewing. The time is 10 a.m. and I am calling the October 7th, 2025 regular meeting of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority to order. Charity, please call the roll.
Mr. Will Bearing.
Here.
Mr. Todd Cohn.
Here.
Mr. Gene Love.
Here.
Mr. John Titsworth.
Here.
Ms. Dana Weber.
Here.
Mr. John Jones.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Charity, I want to welcome you back after your misfortune. Everything's going well health-wise, looks like, so welcome. It's good to see you. First items of business this morning are some recognitions and awards. Mr. E. Kelly.
So this morning, Mr. Chairman, thank you. We have a Trooper of the Month. I think that Major Val is going to come up and present that. Then next we'll do the WTS Member of the Year recognition with Sarah Keller.
They always try to come hide over here every time, don't they? Chairman, board members, would like to welcome Trooper Cody Thompson for coming in today, and thank you for allowing us to have this time to do this. Trooper Cody Thompson has been assigned to the Will Rogers Turnpike since 2022, where he consistently led the Will Rogers Turnpike in interdiction arrests, 9 in total. For this year alone, and I received this report in July, so this is what he's done since July, or January through July. Trooper Thompson has made over 500 traffic stops. He's made 16 felony drug arrests and 22 misdemeanor drug arrests. On July 22nd of this year, Trooper Thompson conducted a traffic stop at mile marker 285. During this stop, he confiscated 1 pound of methamphetamine. Trooper Thompson had also made 2 interdiction stops in June, seizing over 277 pounds of marijuana and 108 pills of MDMA. Trooper Thompson is a great representative of the Oklahoma Highway Patrol and is a great supporter of our OTA. We'd like to thank him for his hard work and his professionalism.
Chairman, Board, thank you for this opportunity. I have a very exciting and special award to present for an even more special person. So a little background about WTS, or Women Transportation Seminar International. It's all about opening doors, lifting voices, and creating opportunities in transportation. What began in 1977 as a small group of women hosting seminars, because women weren't always welcomed into professional associations, has grown into an international organization shaping the future for transportation for the public good. 9 years ago, pioneers in Oklahoma, many in this room, brought WTS to our state, providing women in transportation with a platform to grow, connect, and lead. Today, WTS continues to deliver mentorship, professional development, and leadership opportunities at every stage of a career. But more than that, it has become a true community, one that believes our industry is stronger, more innovative, and more inclusive when everyone has a seat at the table. On September 25th, just a few weeks ago, we celebrated that mission in action at our annual gala with one of the chapter's most cherished honors, the WTS Oklahoma Member of the Year Award. The recognition goes to a member whose spirit, commitment, and leadership embody the heart of WTS. And this year was especially historic, as it was the first time an Oklahoma Turnpike Authority had received an award from WTS, and it was the first time that one person was nominated for both Member of the Year and Woman of the Year. That trailblazer is none other than our very own OTA's LaDan Nelson, Access Program Director at OTA. I have more, I'm not quite finished. From her ODOT days managing major projects such as the $75 million I-40 widening in Del City to her leadership with Access Oklahoma, LaDan has consistently demonstrated grit, vision, and dedication to strengthening our state's infrastructures. Within WTS Oklahoma, she has been equally remarkable, revitalizing our gala, raising scholarship funds, of which we've raised over $55,000 over the past 9 years, recruiting members with contagious enthusiasm, and showing young women that they too can lead in the world of dirt, concrete, and steel. Fearless, approachable, and committed to lifting others as she climbs, LaDan embodies the very best of our industry and of our mission. It was with admiration, gratitude, and pride that we recognized her as the 2025 WTS Oklahoma Member of the Year.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment?
Please.
I'd just like to say that the women that we have here at the Turnpike Authority, to include one of our board members, are some of the most professional, dedicated people that I've ever worked with. So, congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Love. I believe all board members have been provided a copy of the minutes for the regular meeting of September 9th, 2025. I ask for a motion for approval of minutes.
So moved.
Second? Thanks, Ms. Weber. Please vote appropriately. The voting is ended and the minutes have been approved. First items of business are the finance items. Mr. Cohn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item is item 1310 for the Turnpike Authority budget. Ms. Smith?
Mr. Chairman Jones, members of the authority, Director Kelly. Today, the 2026 preliminary annual budget is being presented for your consideration, but I wanted to start out by thanking Jonna Grant and Linda Wilson for all their hard work on the 2026 preliminary annual budget. They generated the document, which, as you can see, I feel like I'm on, The Price is Right or something. After working with each of the division managers to help them prepare their budgets and ensuring that each division could obtain the funds that would keep them the high quality of services that OTA provides, and I couldn't be prouder of their work. You can't miss them, as Linda's got the hot pink on today. Breast care awareness. Okay, with that, I am happy to present the 2026 preliminary operating and maintenance budget for your consideration. This budget ensures that OTA can continue to operate the facilities both safely and efficiently. This year's budget comes in at $165.1 million, an increase of just under $8.8 million, and results in a 5.62% increase over the 2025's O&M budget. The most significant increase involves a changing in funding for certain expenses from the general fund to the operating fund. Last month, I did a fairly detailed overview of the general fund and what it's used for. I mentioned its use and as not only an additional source for the 5-year capital plan, but also as a reserve for unforeseen emergencies and the importance that the rating agencies place on those reserves. However, another important use of the general fund is for projects that are in development. Regularly, projects are reviewed to determine if their projects are still in development and therefore eligible for funding from the general fund or in production, where those projects would more appropriately be funded from O&M. This process would mean that it had become clear that the project is now an accepted process used for current operations. This 6.9 million increase represents the transfer of budgeted funding from the general fund to operations for certain projects, which most significantly represent the expenses related to cashless tolling. And as you know, after 4 years of converting our turnpikes to make them safer for our patrons, the OTA's entire system became cashless by year in 2024. So the timing of this change of funding is both timely and appropriate. The next category of change to the budget includes changes to expenses related to tolling. These changes include an increase in credit card fees due to increased payment volumes, which is always a good thing, people are paying. Changes to our tag fulfillment program, adjustment to expenses related to plate pay as more real-time information is analyzed. We're really looking forward to next year when we have like a whole year of, apples to apples. We're completely cashless, where we can really get down in the weeds and really do some analysis. OTA continues also to pursue national interoperability, so you'll see a change in interoperability fees as well, which also will ultimately saves us money. Finally, OTA has increased its budget related to the oversight and continued implementation of the Access Program. This includes some reorganization of needed staffing along with legal and bond-related costs. Those two categories together related to tolling and access increased the budget by approximately $1.8 million. As usual, the division managers do a fantastic job analyzing their budgetary needs every year and working with the budgeting staff to not only ensure that their divisions could obtain funds that would keep them the high quality of services that OTA provides, but also to handle that process in a fiscally responsible way. So that concludes the overview of the 2026 preliminary operating budget. Additionally included is $165,020,177 capital plan for 2026. That's also incorporated, and it is recommended that the authority accept the 2026 preliminary operating budget in the amount of $165,056,062, and it is also recommended in accordance with Section 505 of the Trust Agreement that the authority accept the $36,070,240 required reserve maintenance deposit certified by the consulting engineer. I'll take any questions.
Any questions? You and your team have done a fantastic job, and I really appreciate that. Well, if there are no questions, Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval and acceptance of item 1310 as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval of item 1310. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ms. Weber. Please vote appropriately. Voting is ended, and item 1310 has been approved.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, is item 1311. Jordan Purdue.
Good morning. I've got the much smaller budget here. So mine is the preliminary budget for the Gilcrease Expressway. This for the calendar year 2026 in the amount of $1.399 million. This is an increase of just over $68,000 from last year's, and the majority of those increases are tied into utilities and overhead. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, other than when we're going to expand to the north side of the Gilcrease?
We are looking into it. I can confirm.
I think I knew you were going to say that.
If there are none, Mr. Chairman, I'd move for approval of item 1311 as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. We have a motion for approval of item 1311. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ms. Weber. Please vote appropriately.
Thank you, Jordan.
Voting is ended, and item 1311 has been approved.
My final item, Mr. Chairman, is item 1312. Ms. Gardner?
Good morning, Chairman Jones, members of the authority. Item number 1312 is the payment register prepared by the Comptroller Division. This register contains all payments made by the OTA for the month of August 2025. Staff has reviewed this item and recommends for approval.
Any questions? And if there are none, Mr. Chairman, I'd move for approval of item 1312 as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. We have a motion for approval of item 1312. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Please vote appropriately. Voting has ended, and item 1312 has been approved. Our next items of business are the engineering and construction items. Mr. Berry.
Thank you, Chairman Jones. The first item is item 1313, which will be presented by Mr. Gardner.
Good morning, Chairman Jones, members of the board. Presented for consideration of the authority is a request that the following change orders be approved. Of these change orders, one funds the early completion incentive for the project, and one overruns existing items due to site requirements and credits time to the contract. This item has been reviewed by staff and is recommended for approval. And as always, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I have just a quick comment when it comes to change orders. You get the job of every month of coming up and presenting changes of what could be, I don't know, a mistake or, an oversight or an unforeseen, which I know is not very fun to do. But on the flip side of all of that, you also get to do a change order for what I consider as a job well done, or these incentive contracts that we get to give to these guys because of a job well done. And so what that means to me is not only did they meet a time constraint, but they also met a standard that we hold pretty high when it comes to testing of dirt and concrete, reinforcing all the things that they get tested. And so they had to meet a requirement, but I just wanted to commend you and your team for those efforts because that kind of change order is something that I think we should praise, because not only does it, I know we're giving money out, but it also takes the orange barrels off the street or off the system, and ultimately is a huge safety for us all. So thank you for you and your team for all that you do.
Absolutely, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? If not, I make a motion that we approve item 1313 as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. We have a motion for approval of item 1313. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Please vote appropriately. Voting is ended, and item 1313 has been approved.
Next item is item 1314, which will be presented by Mr. Gore.
Good morning, Vice Chairman Berry and board members. Today, on 1314, is declare surplus property and authorize the directors to sell, lease, or otherwise dispose of the same. The following properties consistent of approximate acres at locations identified below were previously acquired by the authority. CM 187, which is approximately 24 acres on the Cimarron Spur in Payne County. Second one is CH 302A, roughly 1 acre on the Cherokee Turnpike in Delaware County. A staff review of the property was conducted, and it has been determined that a portion of the described parcels and approximate acres identified were acquired as uneconomic remnant and is not needed for the construction maintenance needs of the turnpike system. Based on the determinations, the staff recommends consideration and vote to declare the attached described parcels surplus and authorize the director to obtain a survey, appraisal, sell, lease, or otherwise dispose of the property, including in a land swap or otherwise acquired property needed for the turnpike system. So with CM 187, that one actually just requested by GRDA, and they're needing to request to put an easement across to extend their system. As we're looking at it, it makes more sense for us to surplus the whole property as it's been versus just doing that little strip. And so that is why we had identified this with maintenance and requesting that to be surplused. The second one, CH 302A, originally when we built the project, the Cherokee through here, we had a very wide, we had a detour to do that county road, which required the utilities to be located out west and during that construction. Since then, since the time, the utilities have not utilized in that area, in the white area, and so we're reducing down to the only area that utilities still exist, and we still need a public utility area for. With that, I stand for questions.
Are there any other questions or comments? If not, I make a motion that we approve this item as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. We have a motion for approval of item 1314. Do we have a second?
Second motion.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Please vote appropriately. Voting is ended, and item 1314 has been approved.
Mr. Gore, item 1315.
Thank you. 1315 is consider and adopt a resolution of necessity for condemnation of certain real property interest along the east-west connector. Submitted for the approval of the authority is items to consider and adopt the attached resolution of necessity for condemnation of certain real property interest along the east-west connector. Today is, there's attached this, there three, we have already secured parcel AA003. These are three tenants that we are still trying to come to an agreement on their moving cost. And we are kind of at an impasse and timing and everything like that, that we seek this approval from the board to be able to, if need be, go to the condemnation. As always, we continue to negotiate and always will continue to negotiate to hopefully get this resolved to avoid any court action. With that, for any questions.
Are there any questions? If not, I make a motion that we approve this item as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. We have a motion for approval of item 1315. Do we have a second?
Second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Please vote appropriately. Voting is ended, and item 1315 has been approved. Moving to the reports information. First is the Highway Patrol report. Major Val.
Chairman, members of authority, before I start, if it's all right, we've had a little change in our administration with the major's responsibilities. We do this about every 2 years. So I want to introduce Major Jeremy Allreed. He'll be taking my replacement, effective immediately.
Right after this report, yeah.
But I did want to introduce him and welcome him. So.
It's my honor to be here. I look forward to kind of learning some of the procedures and the things that Garrett's been up to, because really we accuse him of not doing much. So we'll see how that goes out.
Very good. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you and welcome.
Okay, for the month of August, our Turnpike troopers made 5,207 violator contacts, assisted in 1,063 motorist assist. They investigated 205 motor vehicle collisions. They worked 992 shifts, averaging 212 miles per shift for a total of just over 210,000 miles driven. Unfortunately, the Turnpike system reported 6 fatalities. They made 5 criminal interdictions arrests, and the other specific information on special emphasis have been included in your packet. Do you have any questions?
You know, safety is one of our biggest focuses on everything we do, and I know there can be a lot of reasons, but we certainly had a significant increase in fatalities this year. In all of your looking at all of these, do you have any thoughts about why we're seeing such a big increase?
It's funny you mention that. Director E. Kelly has reached out to me about that topic a few weeks ago. We did a little research for him and looked at the past 2 years, and I would say over 90% of our fatalities were pedestrians and vehicles running off the roadway, striking a tree, a guardrail, a culvert, rolling, re-entering the interstate. Those are 90% of our collisions out there. Reason being why these pedestrians continue to make decisions to get on an interstate system at any time, it's hard to say. The vehicles running off the roadway, of course, we always have to run toxicology reports, find out if it was alcohol or drug induced, which probably half of those are. The other half could be falling asleep, looking at their phone, watching TV, unfortunately. All kinds of things like that, but that's the majority of our issues out there.
Those always happen. It's just troubling when we see an increase of this significance.
Right.
Yeah. It is unfortunate.
Thank
Any other comments?
I understand that you did a little program here. I don't know exactly what the dates were in the last month or so where you were checking commercial driver's license and found a lot of illegal immigrants and impounded some trucks. Can you give us some details on that?
I can give you a little bit from what I've heard. I wasn't there for that emphasis. That was not on the turnpikes. It was out on the interstate systems. It was a commercial motor vehicle emphasis. So they did, had some stats here. They did 519 total stops during that period of time. And out of those, they made approximately 120 arrests. So when they get those commercial vehicles pulling in through those ports of entries, and they're doing their federal guidelines of inspections and things like that, once they come in contact with that driver and they can't speak English, other things pop up. Their licenses aren't valid, they're expired, they're on a permit, which isn't legal. There's so many other regulations. That's where those 120 arrests came from. They did 70, they impounded 70 of those trucks, and 56 of those were heavy-duty semis. So that's pretty scary to think, just in that short time period, that we had that little bit of contact with those semis out there on the interstate system, and that was what was uncovered. So we have several more of those coming up in the future.
Good.
Any other questions? Major Val, we're going to miss you, but good luck with your next endeavors.
Well, thank you, and just real quick, thank you for allowing me to do this. It's been a privilege. I've got almost 28 years on. I've done just about everything there is to do for this agency, and as a major, I'm coming up on 8 years, and I think I've done every department that there is. I had no idea what the Turnpike Authority did or their involvement, but it's been an honor. Director E. Kelly, can't tell you enough how great that guy is and what he does, not for just for us, but for everybody here. Miss Grant, I mean, all you ladies that we work with, it's been an honor. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next report is our consulting engineer report, Mr. Jimmy Sparks.
Morning, Chairman Jones, members of the authority, Director E. Kelly. Concerning the trust required services, we have submitted our 2025 inspection data that was available for the final report, and within that are our recommendations to the 5-year capital plan and any reprioritization that we felt was needed after our inspections. Pardon me. I reported last month kind of on the long-range needs of the system when you think about bridges and pavements and some of the numbers there, and so with your approval of the preliminary budget, I was looking through, and Wendy covered a lot of the capital plan stuff, but the 2026 to 2030 total over $800 million in total for the capital plan, and some of the major assets that we look at would include over $300 million for pavement rehab, $40 million for Dalbar retrofit and diamond grinding, over $120 million in bridges, and over, about $35 million in shoulder and guardrail. So I always want to point out the reinvestment, because it is needed, because it is an aging system. There's 900 bridges, there's 2,500 lane miles of pavement, so it is a big system, and it does need the reinvestment. So we certainly appreciate the authority support in that. Some of the notable projects I looked at were continued rehabilitation of bridges on the Cimarron and Indian Nation turnpikes, several segments of pavement reconstruction on the oldest concrete pavements on the system on the Muskogee and Indian Nation, and several segments of the Turner Turnpike that need to be rehabilitated prior to the access projects coming through. So trying to plan those out and make that one last mill and overlay maybe for those sections. So all in all, the engineering and maintenance groups do a great job in prioritizing and keeping the system operating safe. We will be reevaluating our reserve maintenance requirements by the end of the year that Wendy kind of touched on, but I always want to point out the OTA's investment continues to outpace what we see as the minimums needed, so always appreciative of that. In September, our engineers checked 57 special overloads for passage. We had no special inspections in that report, and as always, happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Sparks. Our next report is our trustee report, Ms. Rachel Singleton.
Good morning, Chair Jones, members of the authority, Director Kelly. As bond trustee to the authority, all monthly debt service transfers were made for the semi-annual payment, payments due to the bondholders as required by the trust agreement. And also, as Wendy and Jordan presented earlier, the preliminary annual budgets were approved, and the budgets are compliance requirements of the trust agreement, which we have received. And to our knowledge, all other requirements set forth in the trust agreement have been satisfied. Questions of my report?
It's always a good report. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next report is the operating results and financial conditions. Ms. Wendy Smith.
Chairman Jones, members of the authority, Director Kelly, we certainly appreciate your consideration of the 2026 preliminary annual budget of the system, as well as the preliminary annual budget for the Gilcrease Turnpike. And I actually didn't write this down, but I really feel like I'm going to go ahead and say this. I've been here for a long time, and one thing that I always felt was really important was making sure that the budgeting division really is there to help all of the different divisions, because they're all trying to do something else, right? They're trying to maintain the roads. They're trying to get the snow off the roads. They're trying to do whatever it is they're trying to do. And so we try to make that as easy for them as possible. And I have been saying that since I got here in 1993. And so when I heard him say thank you to Ms. Grant and Ms. Wilson, they did such a great job with that. And we really even made it more, Julie kind of like said, hey, let's make this even more helpful. And so we really did try to do that, and I hope that all of you guys feel like that we did that, because we really, really want to make the budget as easy as possible. Again, you guys are doing what you guys are doing, but estimating what you're going to spend is just so important for everything that we do. We have to be able to tell the rating agency, so I just wanted to go ahead and say that and thank them again, and also to thank Jordan for being our subject matter expert for the Gilcrease. So he's great, and so he knows everything, so ask him everything. So as for the month of August, OTA continues to be in strong financial position, as can be seen from the operations report for August that was prepared by the Comptroller Division. Net total revenues for August 2025 reported at $41.9 million, and total transactions grew by 2.6% as compared to last year, and heavy truck traffic is continuing to hold steady, so we're really happy about that. Additionally, year-to-date total revenues continue to outpace budgeted projections by 8.5%. Collectively for the year, the division managers have held their revenue fund operating expenses to 20% under the 2025 operating and maintenance budget. That really does show their fiscal responsibility, just like when they come up with their budget, but also as they spend throughout the year. So I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh.
I've been hearing these presentations for a long time, and I think 20% under budget may be the lowest so far. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, we're trying to spend too.
Our next report is the Director Report, Director E. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to belabor the budget anymore, but the crew really did a great job. You know, Wendy talked about the budget transfers and changing something from being in the capital plan, a pretty significant amount of money. The biggest change to our budget is just an accounting change, changing it from a implementation to an operational piece. So really appreciate that. Appreciate everybody keeping the budget flat. When that occurs, it allows us to do what Jimmy said, which is invest more money in the road. So any extra dollars that come in that aren't spent toward operating get spent in turn into a maintenance project, whether that be surface improvements, bridge, or heavy safety improvements that Jimmy highlighted. So appreciate him talking just a little bit about that. I want to follow up on the South Extension Turnpike alignment since our last board meeting. We unveiled that alignment, showed it for the first time just a couple of weeks ago. We've been really busy with that since we started sharing the alignment. On September 23rd, we announced the new South Extension Turnpike alignment, which is in Cleveland and McLean counties. This 500-foot wide alignment, and that's an estimate. Most of the Kickapoo, if you go look, is somewhere between 250 and 450 feet wide, fence to fence. And so we've been estimating for estimation purposes using 500-foot wide until we get some of the survey work done. It starts near Indian Hills Road, where the future east-west connector turnpike will be built, and will run south between 48th Street and 60th Avenue through Norman, which aligns with the City of Norman's new AIM plan. So that's their development plan of how they're going to continue to move development outside of the city core. In the Noble area, just south of Highway 9, the alignment shifts slightly to the east of 60th Avenue, which there aligns with Noble's development plans, and will cross US 77 and the South Canadian River near the same location, almost at the exact same location as it did in the 2022 alignment, and then connect with I-35 near Purcell. The southernmost portion of this alignment follows the same footprint, like I said. This alignment was identified as having the least impact on homes, and we estimate about 75 homes will need to be required for the project, which is comparable and hopefully less than the original alignment. Since the announcement, OTA has met with hundreds of property owners who came to one or more of the 3 open houses in Norman and Noble. We're extremely grateful for the opportunity to speak with so many folks, and we want to thank them for coming and attending those meetings. The homeowners who attended were primarily those in the path or very near the alignment, and who were hoping to, and were exactly who we were hoping to talk with. Many were rather surprised by this new alignment, and obviously not pleased to find out that their homes may be impacted, which is completely and totally understandable. So we're looking forward to work with them to try to accommodate them to the best of our ability. However, we also had homeowners who were interested in early buyouts. We call those early acquisitions, and or were there to support the turnpike and want to work with OTA and only want assurance they will be fairly compensated, which is what we plan to do. While we were able to answer some questions directly for those either in the alignment or near the future turnpike or maybe even far away, we know there will be many more questions that will remain, and we encourage those homeowners to stay in touch with us directly throughout this process so that we can work to provide them with more specific information as it becomes available. OTA is doing everything it can to expedite this process to provide even more certainty to homeowners as quickly as possible. The delays that have occurred from the 2022 alignment to this one left people in limbo. We absolutely hated that. The next steps are to begin surveys and studies of the area to aid in the engineering design work necessary to prepare right-of-way and design plans. This will occur this winter and into early 2026. In the meantime, property owners and homeowners can remain in touch with us via the access hotline number and email address, and there's a graphic being shown on the screen for that now. One of the primary things that has to occur that we prefer to do in the wintertime is aerial survey. When the leaves come off the trees, we get a much better aerial survey. So we'll double check this alignment. We've done aerial survey in this area before. We'll do it again now that the leaves will be off the trees, and then that'll allow us to further narrow down the exact footprint of this turnpike. In construction updates, on the Creek Turnpike, the Hakey Creek Bridge, the board awarded this project a few months ago. That construction is set to start in early November. This week, the public will notice that initial work zone signs are being set and in preparation of lane closures that will be done in each direction Wednesday and Thursday night this week to place the barrier wall and begin the crossovers for traffic to use in November. We're going to move all the traffic from one bridge over to the other bridge, and that'll allow us to begin work on the unoccupied bridge. This is a $72 million bridge rehabilitation project expected to be complete in the summer of 2027, so about a 1.5 year long construction job. And just as Mr. Berry pointed out, we do have incentives on projects like this that With any luck, the contractor could finish as early as spring 2027, assuming there's no big change orders there, Jeff. So if you're a commuter in that area, we encourage you to plan for additional travel time, especially as this project really gets started. And the immediate impact of traffic is, currently unknown until we've got the signs in place and the lane closures and the lane shifts. But please remain vigilant. Please remain vigilant. I'm not going to use this word again. Yeah. Yeah. Let's switch to something that's a little bit better than my English. Let's just pay attention when you're in this work zone, and try to give others a safe space that are trying to drive through there. In September, OTA joined with ODOT in a statewide seatbelt safety campaign. While numbers are still coming in, we're excited to see others sharing these messages and helping spread the word that wearing a seatbelt increases your chances of surviving a crash by 50%. Our message was never skip the click. We've had several other state agencies that have jumped on board with this and taken pictures of them putting their seatbelts on. Their directors and deputy directors really appreciate the other state agencies that have picked this up. It affects everyone, seatbelt usage does. Oklahoma ranks 44th in the nation for seatbelt usage, and improving that ranking by buckling up could save hundreds, if not thousands, of lives in the coming years, just in Oklahoma. Last month, we shared a powerful testimonial video about a crash on the Turner Turnpike in which a young man was severely injured a year ago because he was not wearing his seatbelt. I want to thank Trey Weber again for his courage in sharing his story and for encouraging other young men like himself across Oklahoma to always buckle up. Coming up next in October 20th through the 24th is National Teen Driver Safety Week. An OTA will highlight that week with social media content for teen drivers focused on vehicle care and how to stay safe if they must pull over to the side of the turnpike or any other highway for an emergency. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to invite Tom Robbins, founder of Work Zone Safe, to the podium to talk about a statewide teen driver safety curriculum and the ongoing efforts to see other states adopt the first in the nation program.
Do we want to play that video to start? That'd be okay.
Work Zone Safe is an opportunity to shred our pamphlets and to give modern tools to teens in ways that they learn so they can be educated and engaged on work zone safety. Teen drivers are learning the skills of how to drive safely, but they aren't getting the education and engagement that they need around work zone safety. So this is an effort to put these modernized tools in their hand, to learn directly from ODOT employees and contractors and friends about the face behind the flag, to experience what a flagger zone is, and to walk through that work zone.
I feel as though you're just trying to get done, get your permit, you're just excited, you just want to get it over with and get on the road. But I feel like being here and seeing all the actual things that could possibly happen, you're paying attention, you're honed in to what is happening, and you can really have a better understanding of what you're doing.
The most critical point, though, is that they're introduced to work zone safe faces, to people who've been impacted by crashes and work zone safety, and gives them an opportunity to learn their stories.
I spend the majority of my time traveling through the different turnpikes within the state, and what I see every day is people on their phones, distraction, people not paying attention, anywhere from people putting on makeup, painting their nails, changing clothes, reading books, anything and everything that you can think of as a distraction, I've seen it. My number one concern every day is knowing this is occurring and knowing these people are driving by my coworkers, 5 feet away from them or less.
Teen drivers are then invited to take an online Work Zone Safe course, which they can do anytime online at workzonesafe.com. Work Zone Safe teen drivers who complete this course have the opportunity to be awarded a monthly scholarship. They qualify for an insurance discount, and here in Oklahoma, they get a 60-minute free jump pass at Edmond Sky Zone.
It's absolutely important to educate because they're not getting this education anywhere else. So if we put these out there, they see what we're doing. They see in these construction zones, our people are out there working and dying in construction zones.
This is a very important event to not only train the teenagers, but to just reinforce that we're parents of those teens as well. So we are all in. Safety is our #1 priority. If you bring exciting program like this, we're going to try to make it as successful as we can.
So schools or safety partners anywhere across the country can go to workzonesafe.com and reach out to us. We can let them know how these tools can be made available to them. Join us. Contact us at workzonesafe.com. Find out how you can be a partner in educating and engaging teens on how to be work zone safe.
All right. So as the founder of Work Zone Safe, we have a powerful, simple, but impactful mission. And that is for every new teen driver to know that there's a face and family behind every flag, cone, and flashing light. I'd be remiss if I didn't just note my good friend Mike Patterson. When I served with the former governor, I would see him wear these orange pins. And I asked him one time, I said, Mike, what's that about? He goes, well, that's for Work Zone Safe, Robbins. I go, well, tell me more. And he told me that there was over 70 employees that had been killed for the ODOT and the Turnpike Authority, and that there was a monument, which I never knew before, in front of these offices. And so as I investigated, I found out that Oklahoma, much like every other state, simply was handing out pamphlets or was challenged in how they're educating and engaging teens. And so reimagining it, I ran back and said, hey, I think I might have this solution. And he supported it, as then Director Gatz and, of course, Director E. Kelly. And we do that through two ways. One is we recognize that teens, they need a hands-on experience. The current driver's ed to go through a work zone, there isn't a requirement. Pretty much every state in the country just has one or two questions on the driver's test. And that's inadequate because we're facing a crisis on our roads, as has been noted in the increases of crashes and fatalities. That's primarily driven by digitally drunk driving, where we've taken on drunk driving with our policies and, of course, in the criminal justice system. And my teens know exactly what's going to happen if they ever decide to drink and drive. Unfortunately, we've all allowed ourselves to be digitally drunk, and the impact is just as powerful of people weaving and going off the road. And we're seeing that, unfortunately, this last month here in the Turnpike Authority, losing one of our Turnpike family members to that. In addition to that, we've seen an uptick in speeding, and of course, we've noted the seatbelt use. And so what we've done is we've given an opportunity where we go out in the community, and just like you see hosting these events with the ODOT, Turnpike, and our contractors and supporters, is we first give these teens an opportunity to hear from the face behind the flag cone and flashing light, where they share the shared goal of coming home safe. And as they walk those teens through a work zone, we talk about the signs and the scenarios. And those teens, what they tell us is that they're scared. They have an elevated level of anxiety. They try to avoid work zones because it's the most difficult and challenging environment that they have. And from the ages of 15 to 20, the most likely contributor of someone passing away at that age group is behind the wheel or as a passenger. And so they either get that right before they get their license and that permission to drive and those keys put in their hand. They don't wake up when they're 40 and say, all of a sudden I'm going to be a work zone safe and I'm going to respect the work zone. And so we do that hands-on, and it's a great partnership with ODOT, OTA, and the contractors. I'll be out this Thursday and next week with these crews. To date, we've reached, and over 50,000 Oklahoma teens have walked through that work zone since we started it. Number two is we recognize every state basically just fights every 10 years to get an extra question on the driver's test. Well, when you're facing a crisis where people are being injured and killed and work zone families are being destroyed and drivers or passengers are ending up in the hospital, that's not adequate. And so what we launched here in Oklahoma was an online program called Work Zone Safe at workzonesafe.com, where Oklahoma teens have the opportunity to go in depth and learn what they actually need to be a successful and safe driver and a confident driver in a work zone. They learn about speeding, distractions, and seatbelts. And this month we introduced, because of what we're seeing in numbers, a section about impairment, where they learn about the consequences, the impacts, the rules, and the laws. Also in respect and acknowledgement that our first responders, and particularly here in the Turnpike, the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, amongst others, shares that space and is in harm's way. We have a special focus on our slow down and move over efforts and laws, where they are introduced to people that have been impacted on our highway and Turnpike system because of that. Now, as we do all that, they have to answer questions, they have to watch the videos, and they have an engaging time learning about it. But I would say the most important part of our course is the very end, where we introduce them behind the faces, behind the flag cones and flashing lights, to our law enforcement, our first responders, our tow truck operators, fellow teens who unfortunately kiss their dad goodbye but don't get to see him again because he was taken in a work zone. And then I want to let you know, because I think all of us, when a tragedy happens, say, what are we going to do? How can we move forward? How is this person going to be remembered? And what can we, is there any good that can be done out of it? As you know, Zach, who was killed just less than 2 months ago because of a distracted driver on the turnpike, we just updated that section to include his information. And so what we tell there, and I'll share that, it says, work zone safety is not just about statistics, it's about people like Zach, a 36-year-old husband, father, veteran, firefighter, and Turnpike Authority worker who never made it home. On August 18th, he was working along the Will Rogers Turnpike when a distracted semi-truck driver looking for a drop device veered off the road and struck and killed Zach, also seriously injuring another Turnpike worker. Zach's more than a headline. He proudly served 6 years in the U.S. Army. He was a volunteer firefighter. He was on the search and rescue team. He loved coaching t-ball, soccer, duck hunting, OSU cowboy football, and most of all his family. He leaves behind his wife, and we name who those are, and his children. We have a quote from a teacher of his, and then we invite all the teens to watch a video from the news of his friends and family. At the end, we have questions, but these go way beyond the driver's test of what color is a work zone sign, being orange. And the final question that they're asked in this program is, Zach Reinhardt's wife asked you to do what? And the correct answers that they have to select before they can move on is, always pay attention, remember that workers have families and want to go home. When I first started this, it was voluntary. We got great support from our contractors and many friends, and so we offered a scholarship, a $500 scholarship that we give out to a teen every single month in recognition of them learning about being work zone and move over safe. I had this idea, though, that we needed to modernize. People said, we love the enthusiasm. Good luck, buddy. I will tell you, I'll spare you the details because of the time, but we were able to get that bill introduced, and at the end of 2003, Oklahoma became the first state in the country to require every new teen driver before they get their intermediate driver's license to successfully complete the approved course, which is this, on work zone and move over safety. So in those first years where we just had 2,000 to 3,000 people doing it voluntarily, as of today, we've had over 112,000 Oklahoma teens who are receiving this information about work zone and move over safe. Since then, I get a lot of questions from DOTs, turnpikes, contractors, national trade associations. One, remind me where Oklahoma is, Robbins. I'm happy to tell them. Number two, how'd you kick our butts? And it was because of the safety culture, the leadership of those who have led this department and others to elevate it quickly. When I brought this idea to Mr. Patterson, within 60 days it was up and running. That's not the norm in most states. They don't get to do those type of things. But since we've done this, I'll just let you know that the state of Wisconsin has identified and adopted and passed legislation and adopted the program. North Carolina has adopted legislation in the program, and it'll begin next month. The state of Connecticut has passed the same law and has adopted the program, and it'll begin January 1. Kansas and Missouri have now adopted and are doing it voluntarily. I have a call with Nevada this afternoon. I'll be speaking at the National Virtual Work Zone Safe Conference on Thursday. I'll be going to AASHTO's Work Zone Safe Conference with ODOT and OTA representatives to present on this. But it's quickly becoming the standard and the leader of how we educate and engage our teens. Our message is simple. Every teen driver should know that there's a face and family behind every flag, cone, and flashing light. To give them the why behind it. To teach them from going from scared to prepared. That they know at all times that they need to have to keep themselves safe. Because there are no accidents. They're always 100% preventable. That they need to have eyes up, phone down, buckle up, slow down. In conclusion, I'll just say, besides the nationwide leadership that's been by this leadership here at the Turnpike and ODOT, people always say, you know, teens are great. What about those adults out there? I'm thinking about that. So that's probably what'll come back next. But I know a lot of our adults out there. But as somebody who has teens, I appreciate your efforts. I appreciate the focus of safety. And we're going to be celebrating this and promoting this during National Teen Driver Safety Week on the 20th of this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I just want to commend you on your efforts, and that's a great program.
Thank you.
Really good.
Appreciate it.
And of course, he's not very enthusiastic about his program.
Yeah, you know, I got my driver's license a long time ago. And I was in my 20s probably before I met somebody who was the face behind a cone, right? Before you met somebody, we all know somebody who's a face behind a cone here, and this introduces it before you even get your license. My son, actually in the video, he's not in the video, but he participated in the one that was there at Stroud and then did the online course before he was able to get his driver's license. So I think it's tremendous. It's a big deal. He came out of that and said, "You got a dangerous job, Dad." And I said, "Well, I don't have to stand behind the cone anymore, and not very often. But we get to do something that can create some change around that." So thank you very much for that great presentation. That was excellent. Mr. Chairman, be happy to answer any questions that the board might have of me.
Any questions? Thank you. That concludes our items of business and on our agenda this morning. I ask for a motion to adjourn to our next scheduled meeting of Tuesday, November 4th, 2025 at 10 a.m.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Please vote appropriately. Voting's ended and we're adjourned to Tuesday, November 4th, 2025.